I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was a groan of terror. I knew what the old man felt, and I pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. After I waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lay down, I resolved with a little crevice in the lantern. A simple, dim ray shot out of the crevice and fell upon the vulture's eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I held the lantern motionless.
When he was opening the lantern, his fingers slipped and the old man woke up, and he stood still for an hour, and then he opened a little crevice. The light shone right to the vulture eye. I heard the beating of the old man's heart. The beating got louder and louder and louder, till I jumped in his room and threw the bed on the old man, and he was suffocated, and then the vulture eye was gone. After I killed the old man, I took him into the bathtub and cut off his arms and legs and his head to make sure he was dead. To make sure there was no blood in the tub, I ran some water to clean it out so no one would see the blood and to suspect that I killed someone.
I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited it all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stains of any kind, no blood spots whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. Ha ha. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went to open it with a light heart, then entered 3 men who introduced themselves with a perfect suavity as officers for the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Information had been lodged at the police office, and the officers had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled for what I had to fear. I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I say, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I told them to search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures secure, undisturbed. I brought chairs into the room and desired them to hear the rest. In the wild recklessness of my perfect triumph, placed the own set upon the very spot beneath which responds the corpse of the victim.
The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerfully, they chatted of familiar things, but I felt myself getting pale and wished them to be on their way. My head ached, and I heard a ringing in my ears, but they still sat, still chatting. The ringing became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but continued and gained diffidence until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew even more pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightening voice. Yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, such a sound as a watch would make when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for a breath, and yet the officers still haven't heard it. I talked more quickly, more energetically, but the sound steadily increased. I rose and argued about nothing in a high key and with violent gestures, but the voice steadily increased still. Why won't they go away? I paced the floor with heavy strides, as if excited to hurry by the observation of the men, but the noise steadily increased even more. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair which I had been sitting on and grated it upon the boards. But the noise arose over all and continued increasing. It grew louder, louder, and louder, and the men still chatted on, suspiciously. They knew they were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this mockery. I couldn't bear those hypocritical smiles any longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now, again, listen, louder, 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 and louder. Villains, I shrieked, dissemble me no more. I confessed to the crime. Tear up the planks, here, here, it's the beating of his hideous heart.